What's up guys, I'm Calderon, and today we're going to be talking about my top 3 production VSTs, so let's jump right into it. Alright guys, so now we're inside of my DAW of choice, which is Studio One by Presonus, and before we begin, I kind of want to give a disclaimer, or 3 actually, and that is that by no means am I saying that these are the top 3 production VSTs ever. There are plenty of good ones out there, but these are 3 that I'm a fan of and that I use on an almost everyday basis for my production. Now, of course, this could mean that our preferences might not align. There could be some things on here that you don't like, and that's okay. But these are the 3 that I'm currently using myself, like I said, almost every day. 2, in order for me to use these plugins and review them, I have to own them. So something as great as Omnisphere 2 will not be in this video just simply because I don't own it. So that is that. And then 3, and this is a huge one, is that these are my top 3 VSTs at the moment. 3 months from now, a month from now, things could change. And again, that is also okay. But at this point in time, July 2017, these are the top 3 VSTs that I'm currently using for my production. So another thing to mention is that I chose these VSTs out of a huge array of plugins out of 3 criteria. And that is 1, aesthetics. So that sounds kind of silly, but the way a plugin looks to me is huge, because as producers, we're sitting in front of these desks, we're looking at these plugins for hours at a time, and at least for me, I want something that looks good, that inspires me to work, and actually makes me want to use it. So that is criteria number 1. Number 2 is expandability. So how easy is it for me to install third-party presets or banks, whether it be free or purchased? And then last but not least is ease of use. How easy is it for me to use this plugin? Is it intuitive? Does it speed up my workflow, or does it just cause me to be frustrated? So those are the 3 things that I thought about when I picked these plugins, and then of course I tailored them to my production, which is why they're my favorite. So let's jump right into it. So the first one that I want to be talking about is probably one that most people are already aware of. I mean, if you've done production for a while, then you know Silent One. But the reason I've included it is because it's so good. First of all, if you take a look, this is what the plugin looks like, and they just did an update recently. So before, it actually used to look something like this. Now this was okay, but with the update, the native skin, or the base skin that it comes with, is this darker one, which I'm actually more of a fan of. So it looks good. It looks inviting. I want to start working with it, and that's criteria number 1, check. Number 2, expandability. So it is extremely easy to install, especially with this new update, to install third-party banks. Now, before it was a bit of one more extra loop to jump through, because if you wanted to install a third-party bank, you had to go through menu, then you would go to load bank, then you would look on your computer where you had that bank, load it in there, play your sounds. If you wanted to load a different bank, you would have to go through that process all over again. Well, not anymore. Now if you want to load a third-party bank, you just hit the menu button, then you go to the bank tab, and if you see here, you have your factory tab. Now this houses all of the factory presets or banks that come with Silent One. But if you go here down to custom, you can actually choose a location on your computer that this will read off of, and here you can install all your third-party banks, and it makes it just so much easier to access. So that is really, really cool. And like I said, there's a bunch of different options, a bunch of different people who are selling presets and banks or giving them out for free. So expandability is not going to be an issue with this plugin. And then last but not least, we have ease of use. So if you've ever been like me, where you've looked at a synth like this, a digital synth, or maybe even a hardware synth, and you've seen all these knobs and you've gotten scared, trust me, I've been there before as well. But if you really start to dive into this plugin, you're going to notice that it's really not that difficult to manipulate and to kind of navigate. And like many things, at least for me, I don't encounter a solution until I have a problem. So what I mean by that is a while ago, a couple months ago, I was looking for a pad for a beat, and I'm going to load one up real quick just so I can show you guys. Give me 1 second. Okay, so yeah, this is a perfect one. So I had a pad, and I wanted to come in quicker. Like, I didn't want there to be much of a delay coming in. So if you take a listen, the pad it takes just a couple milliseconds for it to actually start to come in after I press the keys down. So the way to fix that is you go down to this envelope section here and you pull down the attack. And And now as soon as I press the keys, you're able to hear the pad. It's a lot more pronounced. The attack is a lot more present. So with that being said, a quick overview of what these things do. And to be quite honest, this section here is all you really need to be concerned about. So you have your oscillator 1, you have your envelope, oscillator 2, filter, and filter controls. Down at the bottom, you have modulation envelopes and LFOs, but honestly, I just tend to stay up here. So basically what this is, an oscillator is, without getting too technical, it is the engine that gives a sound the characteristic. So every sound starts off as a wave. It could be a sine wave, a triangle wave, I mean, whatever. But this is where you kind of pick your wave, you pick your pitch, you start to tweak it. You can combine oscillator 1 with oscillator 2 to create more of a distinct sound. And then with the envelope, you can set the parameters like the attack, the decay, the sustain, and the release. And then with the filter, I mean, this is pretty much like any basic filter. You have a bypass, so nothing. Low pass only allows the lows to come in. Band pass if you want to just highlight a specific frequency. High pass if you want to cut out all the lows and just leave the highs. And then this is a cutoff, so how much of that do you want? Think of like an EQ curve with a low pass filter. You're sliding it up and down. How much of that do you want? So if I play the pad, I'm allowing more highs to come in, so less of the low pass. And here, obviously, I'm doing the opposite. And this, of course, is the filter controls, so you can just kind of manipulate this a little bit more. But like I said, it's not that hard, guys. If you start to kind of tweak with sounds, make them your own, this plugin is great. I can't recommend it enough. So that is that. So the next one on the list is Kontakt. Now, Kontakt is kind of, it's a new addition for my plugin repertoire. But the reason I've included it is because I am very familiar with the plugin. I just didn't own it till this past weekend. I picked up Complete 11 finally, and this came with Kontakt. But again, the reason I included it is because I've used the demo before. I have third-party libraries that I've kind of used with the demo and used with other producer friends, but it still fit the criteria that I talked to you guys about in the beginning. So I think it's definitely a worthy contender for this video. So if you take a look on the right, we're gonna have the window where all your libraries are gonna pop up once you start to use them. On your left, you're gonna have the actual libraries, and these are from native instruments. These are the native ones. So if you purchase Complete 11 like I did, then you're gonna get a bunch of the libraries to show up on the left. And if you want to install third-party libraries, then that's no problem. You just go to the Files tab here on the top left here, and then you just kind of search for wherever you have those libraries stored. Once you do, then you just kind of drag the NKI file to the screen, and there you go. You have your sound. So again, expandability, great. There's a lot of different options for installing third-party banks and presets. It looks good, and it's extremely easy to use. The only gripe that I have with this plugin is that I wish there was an easier way to switch between presets. So to go like from here to here, I have to literally either exit this out and bring the next one in, or I would have to drag the next one in on top of that and it would replace it. The problem that I have is that a lot of times when I'm kind of like in the flow of working, I'll grab one, and instead of dragging it on top, I drag it to the bottom, and it creates a different effect, because you can do multi VST kind of sound, so you can stack them together. So yeah, I wish there was just an easier way for me to, maybe as I'm here, I can press the down arrow to go to the next one. But something really small, nothing really crazy. But this is why I love also Kontakt. Kontakt is great, and they have a whole bunch of different options to expand your sounds. So last but not least, we actually have a kind of unconventional plugin. And what I mean by that is that it's kind of specific to a hardware piece. I'm talking about the machine software, or VST here. And I use this in conjunction with my hardware machine to lay out my drums. So the reason, and if you guys take a look, I'm kind of behind. This is like version 1 of the software. I know there's a new one out there, but the reason I'm still on the old one is because it's worked so well with how I record and sample my drums into Studio One. Now I actually do not use a sequencer here. I route all my drums to Studio One. As you guys can see here, I have individual tracks for each pad. But essentially, if you guys take a look, you have a sequencer up at the top. Down at the bottom, you're gonna have your pads. And then on the left, you're gonna have your sample tray. This is where you pick your sounds. I keep it 100% of the time on disk because I'm always choosing third-party samples. And what I do is up here I go to samples as opposed to my computer hard drive. So samples, this is an external drive where I host all my third-party one-shots. So from here I'm able to select whatever I am looking for. And here you're able to audition those sounds. So then what happens is I pick a sound, I pick a pad, I double click the sound and it loads it to that pad. So then what happens is I have everything routed to my DAW on a track per track basis. So if I want to record drums, for example, then I just kind of record and enable the ones that I want to record. And this is what it tends to look like. So that is what it looks like, and one, it separates all my drums, which makes it so much easier when it comes to mixing the beat, and it's able to allow me to manipulate these sounds individually if I want to convert them into audio files. So that is why I use the Machine VST. Extremely easy to use. I mean, there's a bunch of different, expansions. Obviously, as you can tell, I have a bunch. I have a 2 terabyte hard drive. It's not full, but it has a bunch of different one-shot samples that I use for drums. But that in essence are my top 3 VSTs, guys. Like I said, these are just specific to me, my workflow, and these could change in the future, but for right now, this is what I'm using, this is what I'm rocking with. In conclusion, we had Silent One, we had Kontakt, and of course, we had the Machine software plugin VST. Alright guys, so those are my top 3 picks for production VSTs. But again, those are only my picks. I'm interested to know what you guys are using to make music, so let me know down in the comment section below. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions, don't forget to shoot me an email. That, along with my social media handles, are all down in the description box, so make sure to hit me up. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.